This is what an analog clock looks like with no hands on it. What do you notice about the numbers? Start at the 1. Look, they go in order. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then they start back over again at 1. This is kind of like a number line that we've used in class. It's just a number line that goes in a circle. So it starts at 1 and it goes all the way around to 12, and then it keeps going. It starts at 1 again and it keeps going around to 12, and the clock will never stop. So let's think about what we would do to tell time with an analog clock. An analog clock uses 2 hands to tell time. It uses a short hand, that's our short hand, and it uses a long hand. The short hand tells us the hours, while the long hand tells us the minutes that have passed. Just like on a digital clock, we can see the hours that have passed and we can see the minutes that have passed. So let's see what that would look like on a clock if we put these hands on the clock. We use 3 easy steps when we find the time on an analog clock. We start by looking at the shorthand. Then, just like on a digital clock, we use a colon to separate the hours from the minutes. And then we look at the longhand for the minutes. So let's try one together. Here's our shorthand. What do you think the hours would be if the shorthand that I just drew is pointing at the hours? What hours did I point my shorthand at? 4, right. So 4 would be our hours. And then the longhand points at the minutes. Let's start with 0 minutes have passed in this hour, just like we looked at on digital clocks. If I write 0 minutes have passed, how do I read that time? Right, 4 o'clock. But let's talk about that for a minute. Why is it 0 minutes have passed if the longhand is pointing at the 12? Well, remember, that's kind of our point on the clock where the minutes start over for the new hour. So this would be 0 minutes have passed. I bet you can count by 5s with me. When we are working with a clock and we're looking at the minutes, they count by 5s around the clock. So this would be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Let's write in 30 minutes. We're going to use that in a minute. 35 minutes, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, 50 minutes, 55 minutes, and then it would be 60 minutes when we got back to the top, but we don't say 60 minutes. We say 0 or o'clock to know that we're starting over on a new hour. So this would read as 4 o'clock. Let's try another one. We look at the shorthand first for the hours. What hour is the shorthand pointing at? Good, 2. It's pointing at the 2. And then my second step is I write a colon to separate the hours from the minutes. Then I look at the longhand for the minutes. It's pointing straight up at the 12, but I remember that means this hour is starting over at 0 minutes have passed. So 0 minutes. But how do I read that? I don't think I'm supposed to say 200. What am I supposed to say? Right, 2 o'clock. So this clock says 2 o'clock. How about this silly clock? Let's think about our steps. We look at the shorthand first for the hours. What's the shorthand pointing at? Right, it's pointing at the 4. Then what was my second step? Oh yeah, I write 2 dots for the colon. That separates the hours from the minutes. And then where's the long hand pointing? It's pointing at the very top, the start of a new hour. 0 minutes have passed. But how do I read that? 4 o'clock. Very good. I don't know where the other hands went. Sometimes on a clock, the two hands are right on top of each other. Look, here's my shorthand, and let's try a different color to help us see. Here's my long hand. So let's follow what we said we would try for our 3 steps. What hour is the shorthand pointing at? Good, it's pointing at 12. Then I write my colon to separate the hours from the minutes. And where's the long hand pointing for the minutes? It's pointing right at the top. 0 minutes have passed in this hour. So how do I read this time? 12 o'clock. Let's try reading some clocks to me. What time do you think this clock says? Look at the hour, then look at the minutes. 2 o'clock. Great. How about this one? The shorthand's at 9. 9 o'clock. Good job. Try this one. 5 o'clock. You're doing great. Here's a challenge for you. There are no numbers. The shorthand points at the 3. 3 o'clock. Great work. So we've been learning about analog clocks and digital clocks. Here's my question for you. How many analog clocks do you have in your house? And how many digital clocks do you have in your house? Be ready to tell your teacher.